Ryan Helsley, super closer, super reliever, St. Louis Cardinals pulling over for us, and some fresh money in the pocket too. So we'll start there. So first off, dude, congrats. How did that all go down?
Yeah, thank you guys. It went smooth. It feels good to go into spring and know what you're making. To not have not a distraction, but something else weighing on your mind. So it feels good to have all that squared away and hit the ground running.
How did that go? Can you give us any other insight? Like, are you one of those that's super involved, or hey, agency, I pay you money so that you handle it, and you just call me when I have to make a decision? You have to give me some information.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of a mix. I think that's why you hire them to let them talk the money. But I like knowing how the process works out, and they called me about once a day to say how their conversations went with the team, and kind of fill me in, and so it was a fun process.
What was that like? I'm always interested. Like, you agreed to what you agreed to. Were you way higher? Were they way lower? And you met at that point? Did you get a little bit past the 50, halfway point? How did it work out for you? You don't have to tell us what the numbers were that you were going with, but we talked about it 2 days ago or yesterday. Todd Frazier, before they went in to, file, the team said 6 million, he said 18 million, and they met at 12 million. Like, so that's super extreme.
Right.
But how did it work for you?
Yeah, I would say we probably met somewhere close to the middle. I don't know exactly where they started at, but I know, from talking to my guys, they felt like it was a very fair offer and they're really excited about it. And, they both sides worked well together, I think. And, I think after last year, it was big, not having to go through that again, and then, just kind of make amends. And, the the process this time was much better. And I think from what I was told, it was very smooth.
Okay, so you got some good money, really good money. You and Jordan Hicks still friends?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so then he can pay for dinner from now on because he got a little bit of extra cash. Free agency is different. And I want you to give your honest opinion on this. Is Jordan Hicks going to be a good starting pitcher for the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know he was starting. One of my other buddies actually texted me and was like, "Yo, Jordan just got paid," and I had to Twitter search it real quick because I was working out during the time. And I think he can be for sure. He's young and he pitched all through the minor leagues, was a starter, and has some experience in the big league starting. I think if he could find a third pitch, that he can throw for strikes a lot, he could have some success because obviously he throws 100 and has crazy movements. So I think honestly, the sky's the limit for him.
The extra four seamers that he started throwing last year, is that something, obviously it was on purpose, is that something you think could be a third pitch because that sinker is so devastating? It's almost like a left-handed slider and a four-seamer from a lefty. Like, do you think that could be something? Because I saw, now he didn't throw a ton of them. He only threw over 100 some, but he had one walk on the four-seamer and he had 18 punch outs. Like, that's something that an analytically driven team, which the Cardinals maybe are not quite up to par on that stuff, is going to exploit and really try to use more? Or what's that chatter from him in the bullpen like?
Yeah. I mean, I played catch with him every day for the last 2 years while he was with us, and we would long toss, and he's trying to throw sinkers 200 feet, and I'm trying to talk some sense into him. Hey, throw something a little straighter, man. We can play a little bit better at catch, and I'm not taking all the credit for it, but I like to say I put a little bug in his ear to throw a four seamer, and obviously having that pitch that rides to the top of the zone and it's completely different than a sinker, I think can really help him a lot. And obviously, like you said, he's had great success with it already. And you see guys all the time switch teams, and they make adjustments with their pitch uses, and they find success. So it's going to be cool to see him and see what the Giants do, and adjusting that for him.
Do you think it could take away from his sinker? I'm always leery of guys that are really good sinker ball pitchers. Now, he's an elite, velocity sinker ball pitcher, but the guy starts throwing a cutter and it kind of flattens out that sinker a little bit. Did you see that, being a guy that had eyes on his arm every single day for the last 2 years?
No, I don't think so. I think he kind of uses it as like an off-speed pitch. Guys don't ever really see it. So I think, whatever his cue is for a sinker, obviously it's different for a four seam. And I think he's been able to really figure that out. And like you said, he only walked one person with his four seam. So he's got some feel for it, obviously. So I think, if he can just nail that down and get that more precise and consistent, I think he could, make it into a real weapon.
Ryan, so I'm looking at the pitch usage this past season for Jordan, and it's different, we know, as a reliever versus as a starter. And I know his velo ticked down a little bit from a billion to like 1 or 2 shades under a billion when he was starting a couple of years ago. But he was a little over 64% sinker, about 20% sweeper, a little over 10% four seam, and then like barely using, I guess what they registered as a slider separate from the sweeper. So what does he have to do to be an effective big league starter now? I mean, we saw it in a little taste a couple of years ago, and I don't think it went that well. I know he's still kind of working his way back from things, but does he need to add another pitch? Have you seen other pitchers that are able to thrive with 2 pitches at an elite level like that as a starter to get through a lineup 3 times?
Yeah, I mean, right off the top of my head, you think of Jacob deGrom and Spencer Strider, just fastball slider, really. You see Strider and deGrom both have really good changeups too, but, the other 2 pitchers are so good and they throw so many strikes, they can get away with it. And obviously they throw a million like Hicks does. So, I think this year Hicks really found his slider. Like, he's always had potential for it. I think that's what kind of helped his strikeout numbers along with the four seam. And, I think if he can, improve those and keep attacking guys and getting ahead, and facing guys 2-3 times is a lot different than facing them once or maybe once every other day, however it works out. But, I think he could, maybe add another pitch. I think that's something that, he's probably going to be open to, especially being a starter. You always want more weapons. And, as a hitter, if you got to worry about 4 pitches instead of 3 or 3 instead of 2, it just makes it that much more difficult.
You're always sitting next to him down there in the pen, and the bullpen is it's a different country. Like, the field, starting pitchers are different countries. Is Jordan Hicks going to be able to have the starter lifestyle? Is he going to miss being down there with the hooligans in the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like from talking to him when he was doing it a couple years ago, that's kind of what he's always wanted to do in the big leagues. Like, obviously, a guy like him profiles better in the bullpen, and it's go out there and let it eat for 15 pitches versus an hour and a half to 2 hours and trying to cover 6 or 7 innings and facing guys 3 times. It's a lot different of a mentality. And I haven't started since the minor leagues, but I remember the whole day before you start, you're kind of getting anxious, and the hours leading up to it, it's all you're thinking about. But bullpen's a little different. You can't be locked in 365 or 182 games, however many it is. You're going to wear yourself out. And I think that's probably what adds to a little bit of the circus or the zoo down there in the bullpen. You got to keep your mind a little freer. Obviously, you're locked in watching the game, but you can't be sitting on edge for 9 innings and every day. You're going to wear yourself out down there.
Ryan, good to see you.
Hey, you too.
You mentioned Strider and you mentioned deGrom, 2 guys obviously high in velocity, 2 to 3 pitches. You can say 3, but you get a lot of strikeouts, but inning eaters also. How can Jordan Hicks become a starter and do that? Yeah, he's not the most swing and miss guy, but if you're trying to go again deep into ball games, the sinker ball is definitely the pitch to have. Do you think by him having 2 really elite pitches, the fastball slider, joining Robbie Ray, who has 2 elite pitches, the fastball slider, that can work, especially in a cold environment like that with a good infield defense?
Yeah, I think so. I think, maybe this first year, this might be a growing year for them, just letting him, so to speak, just go, just let him pitch, let him learn from his mistakes, and just let him go out there and make himself a better starting pitcher. And, a guy that throws a 100 or 98 to 100 with a sinker like that, it's always going to be hard to hit, even if it's coming. And, he's throwing a sweeper slider off of that too that's 88 to 92. It's going to be tough. And I think the key to any good pitcher is just being in the zone, getting ahead. And it sounds so cliche, but if guys can just work ahead, it obviously goes in favor of the pitcher a lot more.
I had a couple fan questions to mix in here. Kelsey Birder actually puts out some great baseball content too. Says, can we hear from Hells on what adjustments might look like for Hicks in terms of velo as one of the only other guys in the league that throw that kind of heat?
Yeah, I mean, I think for him, obviously you want to hold your velo. You don't want to taper off, innings 5, 6, and 7. And I think, for him, it's going to be figuring out this offseason, this last month and even throughout spring training is how can he, keep the whole 100 pitches, 110 pitches for 32 starts, 35 starts, into the postseason. It's going to be a grind. It's a different kind of stress than throwing 15 pitches, back-to-back days or even 3 days in a row. It's just different on the body, and it's going to take some adjusting and getting used to. And San Francisco's had some good starters and in past, and I think they got some good ones out there still. And maybe they can build off each other. Logan Webb and him kind of have similar arsenals. Maybe he can feed off of him and pick his brain a little bit. Who's had a lot of success at the big leagues, and it'll be fun to see and watch him develop.
Is it fun to watch the free agent market right now? As a guy who's going to go through arbitration one more time after this year, is it fun to watch the market, see your guy Jordan Hicks get his $44 million, see Ronaldo Lopez get his $30 million, kind of guys in bullpens that are like, you know what? I'm doing way better than both of those guys. Is it fun to watch? And who in the market right now are you looking at like, I kind of want to see what Hader's going to do. Maybe I don't quite have the Hader numbers, but Hader's on another level. You and Devin Williams are going to come out at the same time in the free agency. Is that exciting? Like, are you looking at like maybe getting a Lambo instead of the ride that you got right now?
Yeah, I'm not much of a car person. I'd rather buy like a four-wheeler or some side-by-side or something, and I'm more of a country guy. I don't really care about vehicles that much. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be exciting. Devin Williams has had a great career too. I think in comparison with Hader, minus the saves, stuff-wise, strikeouts, everything of that nature, he's as good as anybody too, and has had a crazy start to his career and has been as consistent as bad as you can be in the bullpen. And it'll be fun. It's fun seeing your teammates and your friends hit free agency, and just watching how guys and their careers progress and go along. So it's definitely something to look forward to. Not trying to look too far into the future, just trying to focus on the now. And God willing, one day I get there. It'll be exciting and a fun process to go through.
You mentioned it very briefly about how you were starting pitcher in the minor leagues, and obviously you're hell of a closer. For people who don't know, what's the biggest difference between conditioning and strength off seasons between a reliever and a starter? You're not going to throw 180 innings, but you still got to train like you're going to throw 180 innings. So, like, what's the difference of training from reliever to a starter that Hicks is going to have
Yeah,
to do?
for me, right. Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is like bullpens leading up to it. I think a starter going into spring, you're gonna throw 50 pitch bullpens probably, and then higher intent bullpens one day, and you got to mimic up downs, and you got to give yourself that time to adjust and be ready to have that lengthy season. Whereas in the bullpen, especially with the pitch clock now, I think training's gonna have to change, and you only have 15 seconds or 18 seconds now to throw a pitch, and I think you have to really focus on that and change the mentality of being able to do that every so often instead of having these longer breaks and not feeling rushed as much. And for me and my bullpens, I'll throw closer to spring training, I'll throw like 2 sets of 15 for the times I go 1+ or 2 innings, just so it's not something new and a shock to my body. And I've thrown a lot of innings in the minor leagues as a starter and done quite a few up downs in the big leagues too, so I kind of know what that feels like and know what I need to get my body to be able to succeed with that.
All right, another fan question coming your way here, Ryan. This is from D-Rod, one of our regulars. Is St. Louis the easiest city to play baseball in your experience? Obviously, you're not going to be like, well, this is my 8th team. So it's probably a better question for Kratz, even though, I mean, obviously he's just spent time there on the other side. But from your teammates, some have been well-traveled. What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably up there, like fan-wise. I think they do a real good job of supporting you, especially being at home. Obviously, they're not going to boo you as much as a place like, Philly or Atlanta or, a New York team, those East Coast teams like that. But yeah, personally, it's great to play there. Have great fans. They're fans of the game. I feel like they just appreciate good baseball and, they're in tune with the game and are dialed in, and so hopefully this year we can give them a little bit more something to cheer about.
So, and we've talked to you about this already. There hasn't been a ton of action since. There's been a little bit, like the Andrew Kittredge deal brings another friend to the bullpen who's had good success. Thoughts right now on what you've seen from the offseason from St. Louis? I know they did most of their damage early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely made improvements. We're going to have guys who've been there, done that, and pitched at the highest level for a long time. And I think our bullpen is going to be good this year too. We got a couple guys in JoJo coming back, and Gio, who's had a lot of success in the trade we just made for Kittredge. And then we got 4 guys, who could really, be a threat back there in the back end. And we got some younger guys too that have a lot of good stuff and plus stuff. And Thompson or Libertor, if they make the team out of camp, and Andre Palante, who's pitched a lot. So I think we're going to be good. It's going to be exciting to get to camp and get to know the new guys and go from there.
And how much are you paying attention to the rest of the division right now? Anything stand out to you in terms of moves? I mean, obviously, we know the classic rivalry with the Cubs. They've been pretty quiet so far. They just locked up Imanaga the other day, but that's really the first move that they made. There's still plenty of free agents, obviously, still out there.
Yeah, I think the Reds have made a big splash. I think they got a taste of success last year, and they got a good young core, and I think they're wanting to build on that, and they're going to be a good ball club. They always play us really tough, whether we're there or we're at home, but they got a good team, and the Cubs are going to be good again, and the Brewers always can pitch, and the Pirates got a good young team too. I think it's going to be a competitive division. It's going to be an exciting year. We're looking forward to it.
Do players have wish lists? I know I did as a center fielder, and I was the leader of the team. I'm like, hey, I want to get this guy especially as I built more cachet. Do you have a wish list? Like, man, damn, I want somebody to set me up, or I would I would love to have this guy. Do you have a wish list, or just guys that obviously you admire and respect throughout the game, but guys you would like to play with?
Yeah, I obviously thought we might bring Hicks back. I thought that'd be cool. I feel like with today's day and age, you look at good bullpens, most teams have like 2 closers. Obviously you want to be that guy and close, but when you get to the playoffs, like you see it all the time, Kimbrel was throwing the 8th some, and your closers are throwing the 8th. If it's 2, 3, 4 coming up, you might need him to go now, and that's the biggest point of the game. A lot of times, obviously you lose the game in the 9th, but you can win the game in the 7th and 8th too, just like you can in the 9th. So I think having deep bullpens, especially if you want to make a good playoff run, is important. And I think pitching wins ball games and helps you go all the way.
Ryan, I have one more for you. So I know at one point when the team was struggling last year, John Mozeliak talked about how they want to switch things up a little bit in terms of making sure that they are targeting pitchers with swing and miss. Well, you're good there. But do you think that there's anything from an organizational, philosophical standpoint that the organization can do internally to try and boost that, versus obviously just looking for other pitchers that have more swing and miss stuff on the market or in trades?
Yeah, maybe that's something we need to do in spring training. I feel like, I remember being a younger guy, you want to come in and, wow people and try to make the team. But I feel like we've got a few guys now who've been around and, have some experience. This might be the time where we can work on stuff, like you said, to try to get more swing and miss and, maybe change our pitching mindset a little bit and, go for that. You see, like I said, all the good bullpens have guys. There's 7, 8, 9 guys that are striking out 25 to 35% of guys, and that's what you need to miss bats and miss barrels when you're in the back into the bullpen.
One more switching gears. AJ Przinsky is going to be pissed at me, but there's a tweet from you. I didn't want to let this go. It's going to be dated if we get to you next time about it. Oh, Ryan Helsley tweet. Can we just make it a 12-team playoff this year? Did we miss that? Because we hadn't talked to you since. So you want to air it out for a sec?
Yeah, I feel like it's tough. Only 4 teams. I feel like majority of the people would agree with me in college football. Georgia was the best team all year, and they lose to a great Alabama team. There's no reason they shouldn't be in it. And then you got Florida State, who's undefeated. I couldn't imagine being on the Florida State team and not making the playoff. Facing all the adversity they faced, and still, the name of the game is win, and they figured out ways to win. And and I couldn't imagine being those teams. And I'm a Ohio State fan, so I wanted them to be in it. I thought they had a really good ball club, Marvin Harrison Jr. and those guys. And it'll be fun going forward, seeing the new playoff format. I think it'll be better for the game and more meaningful games. I don't think guys are going to sit out as much, and if they're not making the playoff. And I think that's what fans want to see, is the better players playing in those meaningful games.
Yeah, Kratz, you could say it.
Let's just let everybody in. Let's just let them all in. Like, hey, did you guys have a quarterback? Are you guys hurt? Your quarterback got hurt? We'll give you another one. Like, let everybody in. Ohio State, you're
500
usually
record.
there.
Yeah, but you can
500
complain.
record. 6
Ryan,
wins
tell
a
him.
bowl game.
Well, bowl games are stupid. But Ryan, you can tell him. You can complain on the 5th team because there's so many teams, right? Like they're on the outside looking in. They shouldn't have been.
So
If
you can't
get
on
to,
the 13th?
No, you can't.
Boise State isn't going to be pissed. James Madison University.
If they went undefeated, they're going to be in that top 12. Ryan, am I right?
No.
I barely watch any college football.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you win the Power 5 conference, you automatically get in, which is probably what it's going to be. You know, like how do you win a Power 5 conference and not make the playoffs? That's my only thing.
So then everybody else, why are they even playing? Why don't they go make their own division?
What do you mean everyone else? He just said, like, if you're not in a Power 5, then, and I'm really speaking out of my ass because I don't know what I'm talking about, but
then you're not in the playoff.
No, go undefeated.
Cardinals. Hey, maybe we'll do that for the MLB too. Hey, AL Central, NL Central, you're now one division, and you only get one representative in the playoffs. Sorry, you're not part of the Power 4 divisions.
Who wins? Who does it? Who wins outside of the Power 5 anyway?
Nobody gets a shot.
No one's deserved a shot. No one's picked up. I'm sorry, South Dakota State or North Dakota State, who just won. Give them. If you win the FBC, you get to FCS. You get to go for the FBS.
Yeah, sure.
Pick that one.
Whoever
relegate. You should relegate.
I think that showed us Liberty was good, and then they played whoever it was in their bowl game and got smacked.
They got killed.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go. Prime example of it. Prime example. That's why when Boise State played Alabama, they lost 60-7 or something like that. Like,
I just sounded so smart about Oregon, like I actually cared or watched that game, but really it was one of the fans in the chat who helped us out. 275 vet, I see you. I'm calling myself out. Ryan, good talk, man. Keep doing your thing in the offseason. We'll get you again in a few weeks, all right?
All right, sounds good, y'all. Good to see y'all. Take care.